and I think everybody focuses on Archbishop Lefebvre, but there's a lot of other guys, and you had Archbishop Vigano, who took the red pill and escaped from the Matrix and returned to like the wild state, the original state, the traditional state of Catholicism. And so I had said, Vigano is not the first guy to take the red pill from the Novus Ordo and get out of there. And so I thought, you know what, maybe we could do a series about these guys. And so I said, we'll call the series The Titans of Tradition Before Vigano, subtitle. And in today's first episode, I want to talk about Father Carl Pulvermacher, a Franciscan Capuchin. And I think this is definitely going to get broken up into 2 episodes. This first episode I've had planned for quite a while. I have a script here and some visual aids and photographs. And I was going to release this as a standalone show, but I just ran out of time. So I will share the screen over here. Let me find, okay, here we go. Share screen. Okay.
There we go.
All right, so Father Carl Pulvermacher was not born Father Carl. He was born Gerald Pulvermacher on February 27th, 1926 in Bakerville, Wisconsin. So it's right here. It's outside of Marshfield. I've never been, well, I have been to Wisconsin for a few days. And you can see where it is in the general location. Over here is Eau Claire. Here is Wausau, Green Bay. Down here is La Crosse, where Father James Altman is at, and Cardinal Burke was a bishop of La Crosse, I believe. So you can see that Bakerville is between La Crosse and Wausau and Eau Claire. So Gerald Pulvermacher was born there February 27th, 1926. He was the 6th of 9 children in the family, 4 of whom became priests, and all of them were Capuchins. The oldest to become a priest was Father Lucian, and I have a picture of him, I believe. Let me find it. Okay. So here is Lucian Pulvermacher, and you can see, well, he's dressed in white, and why is that? Well, that's a whole nother story. So we won't talk about Lucian Pulvermacher too much, but maybe he'll be another show. He was ordained on June 5th, 1946, and Father Lucian died November 30th, 2009. The next oldest brother was Father Pius, and I will find a picture of Father Pius. That's not him. This is Father Pius, who was born Robert Alois Pulvermacher. He was ordained June 2nd, 1948, and he died May 14th, 2002. And then there's Father Claude. Father Claude Pulvermacher. And this is him here. Oh, I already had a picture of him. This is Father Claude Pulvermacher, and he was ordained in the year 1960, and he died March 20th, 2004. So we'll go back to our present subject, which is Father Carl. Father Carl joined the OFM Capuchins in 1944. Close this stuff. And he joined the province of St. Joseph's. Here is a picture of him in his younger days. This is probably when he made his final vows or when he was ordained a priest, perhaps. So 1944, he joined the OFM Capuchins. This is towards the end of World War II. He's probably, he was born in 1926. So he would have been 18 when he joined the Capuchins. And by the way, this province is the same province that Father Solanus Casey belonged to. Many of you will know who he is. He was a very famous Capuchin. I think he was from Minnesota or Wisconsin, and he joined the Capuchins and lived in Detroit, Michigan, and was very famous there. Did many miracles. So as I said, when Father Carl joined the Capuchin, his two older brothers were already in the order and were only a few years away from ordination. Those would be Brother Lucian and Brother Pius. Brother Carl made his simple profession in the year 1945, so it's a year after he joined, at St. Felix Friary in Huntington, Indiana. And I have some historical photos of the St. Felix Friary. Let me get those up here. St. Felix Friary in Huntington, Indiana. Okay, so this is the chapel there at the Friary in Huntington, Indiana. Beautiful chapel with choir stalls, beautiful altar. I enjoy seeing these big, you call them a chanter stand or a lectern, yeah, where they would sing the Capitulum or the Matins lessons from, and it's a very beautiful chapel. I have some other pictures here.
Yeah,
This
it
is
definitely is.
Yeah, it's beautiful. One thing of interest, see this very large life-size image, it looks like, of the scourged Christ here at
Oh
the
wow.
epistle side, very big. And yeah, I mean, this chapel looks like you got double rows of stalls here. So it looks like you could fit 25, 30 guys in here. So it's a very nice chapel. The next picture, this is the refectory. And it's my understanding that you'll see these tables are very low. It's my understanding that the Capuchins, they either ate kneeling or like sitting on the floor. That was one of their traditions. I don't know a lot about Franciscans, um, and that's probably because pretty much all the modern Franciscans are bad. So I've blocked them out of my memory. But the Franciscans before the council used to be really good, very penitential. And maybe somebody in the comments or who watches this video later who knows more about traditional Franciscans can tell me about it. But I think definitely the Capuchins were the most serious and penitential of the Franciscans. And yeah, it was my understanding that they ate their meals kneeling or sitting on the floor. So anyway, you can see this refectory is quite plain, and this I think would be the head table here where the superior would sit and take his meals. And it's definitely nice and big and very traditional. Um, the next photograph, this is also in the Huntington Friary. This is a recreation room, and you can see here this is obviously in the 50s or early 60s, maybe even the 40s. They got some friars shooting pool. This friar is shooting pool and smoking a pipe. Here's a guy, friar, reading a newspaper. Oh, look, you can see the newspaper. It's about Father Charles Coughlin and his challenge. So this is in the 30s, I believe, this photograph. And so this friar over here, he's reading a paper. But if you look at this, you'd say like, oh, this is a really cool community here, a nice rec room, and they definitely all look like Franciscans. They all have beards, and they're wearing a habit. And here's I don't know who this guy is on the wall, but he's some Franciscan, maybe a founder of the friary or monastery. And here's another one. And so I really like that picture. I think that's all the pictures that I have of the Huntington Friary, St. Felix. So after his vows, Brother Carl was sent to study at their Franciscan Capuchins' House of Philosophy, which was Mary Immaculate Monastery in Garrison, New York. So I have some photos of Mary Immaculate Monastery. Let me find those. So this is Mary Immaculate Monastery in Garrison, New York. Brother Carl made his perpetual vows here on July 12th, 1948. So 4 years after he joined the Capuchins, he took his final vows. And show you some other pictures of it. This place looks very, very big, very big. I don't know how many guys were here in the old days, but this is now there's some present pictures. This is, you can see, this is the chapel. This is a very big choir loft. This is no longer no longer owned by the Franciscans, and that's a whole nother story. So I did some investigation of the history of this monastery to see if it was still open, et cetera, et cetera. It housed 80 students in its heyday, and so yeah, 80 students in its heyday. Sadly, it was closed and sold off by the Capuchins in the year 2001, and they sold it for $7.4 million. Wow. And you can read all about it. There was an article in the New York Times published December 15th, 2001. So you can consult the Googles and maybe newspapers, newspaper.com or newspapers.com. I don't remember if there's a plural in that or not. But read all about the Franciscans selling this place off. Here's a photograph, as I said, of the inside. This is the chapel. Now we'll get to the shocking thing. Okay, so this is what used to be the chapel of the monastery. You can see very beautiful stained glass windows and a circular structure. And over here on the left and right are like confessionals. And you see all these crazy, I don't know what this stuff is. There's chairs here and stuff on the floor and a TV screen or whatever. Well, it turns out that they sold this place and it's now a Buddhist retreat center. So this is the chapel where Christ and the tabernacle used to be. And instead right now what's there? There's an idol of Buddha, okay, with a Apple computer here and an idol of Buddha, and look at these yoga mats and stuff on the floor for these pagan, false worship. So yeah, instead of an alternate tabernacle, you see a Buddha idol. There's yoga mats and potted plants all over the place. So this is Franciscan Capuchins in a nutshell. They closed up the monastery, sold it for $7.4 million, and then there's a Buddha right in the center. So now, while I was I found these photos and I found information about this. A fellow by the name of Brother Anthony Zuba, and he is a present member of the Capuchins, and I have his blog here, which I'm going to open up here. Just give me a second to open this up. I'll paste it over here. So he visited this brother. I just mentioned his name. No, I don't have his name. It's not important. So this particular present day Capuchin brother, he went there and told the story about, it's Brother or maybe Father Anthony Zuba. So read this whole thing, and he says he was so happy that the Franciscans sold it off to a Buddhist retreat center, because he can think truthfully. I can think of no better second life for this chapel than to become a meditation hall. Although he did say there must be some semblance of Catholicism still to this man, though I must admit I experienced some cognitive dissonance as the chaplain described where the altar and sanctuary used to be. There's now a great Buddha. So, and where the panel scenes for the Stations of the Cross were, they've all been cemented over. So the only thing left is the stained glass window. But this father, brother, whatever he is, Anthony Zuba, says, it's not terrible. At least somebody's praying there, even if it's to a false god like Buddha. So anyway, you can see what happened to this Franciscan group. I don't even need to say anything to that anymore. So he says, says that this place is still a sacred space, only the rituals have changed. So this Capuchin is glad false gods and idols are worshipped in the Catholic chapel of a former monastery. This Capuchin, Father Anthony Zuba, he works for a mainstream parish in New York City. So you can read all about him. I'm sure he's a complete train wreck, and I'm sure that order still remains a complete train wreck. So that's the end of him. Goodbye. So in 1949, Brother Carl went to St. Anthony's Friary in Marathon, Wisconsin for his theological studies. And I don't know if I have any photographs of that. So I'm looking for St. Anthony's in Marathon. No, I don't have any photos of that. Brother Carl was ordained a priest by Bishop John Patrick Tracy on September 3rd, 1952 at St. Mary's Church in Marathon, Wisconsin. And after that, I know for a while, he served an Indian mission with the Crow Indians in Montana, and he was so well liked there that he was made an honorary member of the tribe. There's this interesting story which you'll find when you're reading about his life, that he was apparently in the basement of a friary there on this Indian reservation doing something, and I don't know if he was playing with fire or lighting something or paint fumes or whatever, but anyway, the whole house blew up, and he got burned on his face and hands, and had spent quite amount of time he spent quite a amount of time recovering. And so that being said, that's pretty much, I'm at the point in time now where he's with these Indians. He's doing very well, doing work. He got burnt, is recovering, and we're about the time in the late 60s here. And so we get into the stuff with the new Mass. So I'm going to pause this introduction there, because that was kind of like the first half of the life of Father Carl Pulvermacher, and that's before the introduction of the new Mass. And then in the next episode, we'll move on and talk about what he did, how he went from a normal Franciscan, life's great, ordained in the year 1952, and is working with the Indians, and then we'll see what happens after Vatican II. In the next episode, tune in next time, ladies and gentlemen, for another exciting episode of Titans of Tradition.
Yeah, actually, I am pretty excited about this series to get underway because, like you said, everyone knows about Lefebvre, but not really anyone else. And
no,
he wasn't the only one.
There's plenty, guys. I'll tease this right now. So the other guys that I wanted to talk about were Father Gomar de Paul, who I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him. He was one of the first traditionalists. Of course, Father Canon Hesse, Canon Gregory Hesse, who I've mentioned before and imitated many times. He was a diocesan who became a rad trad and cooperated with SSPX. There's, of course, Bishop Antonio Castro Meyer from Brazil, who was at Vatican II and was a rad trad the whole time. And so after the council, he fought against the Vatican II regime. And there's several other people who escaped the matrix, took the red pill, and began to cooperate with tradition. So we'll talk about those in later episodes.
Okay, and you mentioned Franciscans. And actually, I want to get to this comment here. We can get to some of the comments. Someone needs to write a book about the Franciscans, like how Malachi Martin wrote one about the Jesuits. Well, I think with the Franciscans, I believe there's a number of different orders around at least the United States, and then worldwide, I'm sure there's a lot more. But it seems like a lot of these Franciscan groups are different. Like I know Father Casey's group is very, what do I want to say, leftist. I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of a fair way to label them. Franciscan Friars of the Immaculate. Now, now that's an interesting situation. That brings us to our next point. That will bring us to our next topic on the show. But also, I know there's not a lot. It doesn't seem like there are really any traditional Franciscans, but I do know the ones. I have met some of them, the Franciscan Friars of the Holy Spirit. We've
The
mentioned them a few times.
Phoenixes.
Yeah, we mentioned them a few times on this show. Now they're actually they have a community in Detroit because I know a number of their what do you call it, novitiates.
Yeah, Father Athanasius is up there in Detroit.
Yeah, well, and they attend Sacred Heart Seminary, which
Yeah.
seems like it seems like one of the best Novus Ordo seminaries from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think
Dr.
it's
Ralph
not
Martin.
exactly. It's not horrible. Ralph Martin's there, who's good. Now, Dr. Robert Fastigi is there, and I believe he's like a sola obedientia, sola Vatican II guy. If you want to learn more about him, I mean, he wrote a book, and he appeared. Oh, here you go. I think he was on Reason and Theology. That tells you enough there. I just want to puke even saying that, but. If you want to see him, if you dislike the things that he says, he might be a really nice guy. I actually was in a comment box on YouTube, and somebody said they remember him from seminary. It was a priest who remembered him from seminary, and he said, I really liked him. He seemed kind of middle of the road, conservative JP2 to me. Well, he is conservative JP2, but in today's atmosphere of Catholicism and Benedict XVI's atmosphere of Catholicism, you look like a buffoon if you're of that variety, if you're not a traditionalist. And if you want to see him get spanked absolutely in a debate with Bishop Sanborn, the set of the contest, get on YouTube and find the debate between Professor Dr. Robert Fastigi and Bishop Donald Sanborn. And Sanborn just eviscerates him because this debate happened during JP2's pontificate. And Sanborn is going after him about JP2 kissing a Quran and doing the Assisi prayer meetings. And Fastigi is totally there in the papolatry camp where he has to defend everything that the Pope does and says. And he makes himself look like a fool, like saying that JP2 is reaching out to in ecumenical love by kissing a Quran and the Buddhists and all this. And Sanborn just makes him look like a fool. He makes him look like a fool. So anyway, oh yeah, that's kind of an aside about Sacred Heart Seminary. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's good and bad there.
Well, they also Sacred Heart Seminary also has Dr. Janet E. Smith,
who's good.
becoming
She's
increasingly.
based.
I mean,
Yeah.
she's becoming increasingly traditional. Like
she is. She's like totally. I think she's sola TLM.
But yeah, at this point, I think, and before the traditional movement really picked up some steam, she was just all in on Catholicism as it was. So I mean, just between her and Dr. Ralph Martin, that there's going to be some solid professors there.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting point. Like I know it's under Vigneron. I think it's in his archdiocese, Sacred Heart Seminary. And Bishop Boyer, I believe he's from Lansing, and I think he's one of the better bishops. He's kind of like under the radar because he doesn't say a lot, but he does a lot. Like he's a fan of tradition. He's a fan of the Catholic faith, and if you look at some of the things that he has said, he's pretty good. So his seminarians go there. There's the Phoenixes. And then you have the Companions of the Cross,
which
is Father Mark Goring's order.
Yeah.
Some of them, their seminarians go there, and they have a mix. Some of them say the Old Mass. Some of them say the New Mass ad Orientem. So it's, you have a very, very Catholic environment there, and I would say that that's certainly one of the better, Novus Ordo seminaries we have in the United States. And so. That's
and
my take on
I can tell you that I know that there's a number of rad trad priests in Detroit Archdiocese, seminarians, some of whom I've met. I won't mention their names to protect the innocent from the forces of Bergoglio. There are religious that are there. I know the Whigs are there in Detroit. And,
yes.
I don't think
that's
anybody.
A beautiful church.
Yeah. Is it
St. Joseph's?
St. Joseph's, yeah, St. Joseph's in Detroit.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I actually I know a guy who got married there, and I saw his wedding photos. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you got
Yeah,
married in that church?" I was
yeah.
so fired up.
And Burke was there. Cardinal Burke was up there. And what's an interesting story is, Victor went up there for a Penn State game against Michigan State a couple 2 3 years ago or whatever, and for a pontifical mass, and he met Burke up there. So
Wow.
yeah, and so yeah, the Whigs were with him, and some other Detroit traddy priests were there. Um, so yeah, you mentioned Sacred Heart Seminary is a pretty good. I'd say that's a pretty good middle of the road mainstream seminary. And yeah, and you mentioned the Phoenixes. Okay, so
Yes.
that's a Franciscan group that says the Old Mass.
Yes. Now, I have a question. I don't know if you know anything about Archbishop Vigneron. I know he gets a really bad rap from Church Militant,
Yeah,
but is he really as bad as they say? Because there's all this traditionalism going on. He has a good seminary.
I
Um,
don't know. I could tell you what I know is that the Lost Brothers were up there, and he kicked them out after he got the Whigs in, and because the Lost Brothers don't have any priests, and so I honestly don't know. Voris doesn't like him, but I don't know. Is it just because Voris doesn't like anybody? it's
yeah.
it's
Well,
hard to say. I
I,
don't know,
I
and I
mean,
don't know what's his reaction been to Traditionis Custodes, the motu inappropriate. I don't know. Um,
yeah,
if you're in the
yeah.
comment box and you live in Detroit or know anything about what's going on there, please tell us, because that's kind of like we only know the best and the worst when it comes to the motu inappropriate. We don't know what other people are doing.
All right. So speaking of
Oh,
Franciscans, like,
yeah. By the way, before you move on to the other Franciscans,
yeah,
we had discussed, I think, this weekend about where are there traditionalist Franciscans, and okay, we discussed the Phoenixes, who were the Franciscans of the Holy Spirit. But years ago in Scranton, there was a group called like the Friars Minor or something. I don't know exactly what they were called. I mean, there's like a zillion Franciscan permutations, but they were a branch of Franciscans that um, I think like the founder had split off from the CFRs. So, and everybody knows about the CFRs. That's the Benedict Rochelles, the Father Andrew Apostoles, who were big charismaniacs, and they themselves were an offshoot of the Capuchins, who I think are these whack job Buddha Capuchins that I just mentioned. So, Father Benedict Rochelle quit the Buddha worshippers in the 70s, I think, and started the CFRs, who they were kind of into the guitar, hand waving stuff. Um, and an offshoot of them, anyway, was these traditionalist Franciscans who had a house in Scranton. So when I was discerning a religious vocation, I went up and lived with them. Like I said, I think there were two guys who were from CFRs. One dude may have been from SSPX or diocesan or something, and they lived I mean, it was like the real Franciscan life. They didn't have shoes. They walked around barefoot. I don't think they had any money or bought anything. They just ate leftovers that people gave them, and they just wandered. They lived in a ghetto and talked to all their neighbors and walked up to the church. I think I think they might have lived. Did they live within walking distance of the fraternity chapel up there? I actually think they may have. Um, John, what's the fraternity chapel in Scranton called? St. Michael's. So anyway, these Franciscans may have lived near there, but I think that order dissolved because Franciscans are just crazy and they can't ever stick together. So unfortunately, I think that group dissolved. So apart from the Phoenixes, I don't know if there's any Latin Mass Franciscans out there.
let's investigate this rumor here. I know
Oh,
there's some TLM only Franciscans in northern Kentucky.
do you
Okay,
know Trendy Web? What's the name of them?
yeah, because that's near Covington. Isn't it
Yeah, and I know
Covington,
there's the
Cincinnati?
missionaries of St. John the Baptist who were down there in that part of Kentucky, Father Shannon Collins, and wait, no, missionaries of St. John the Baptist. That's that priest that walks around. Um, or maybe I'm getting confused. Who are the guys who are the offshoots of the Fathers of Mercy? I was joking that the offshoot of the Fathers of
Well,
Mercy would be called the Fathers of Divine Wrath. And they would go
well,
around preaching to everybody, if you don't repent, you're going to go to hell. And
are you
they're
talking?
very rigid.
Or are you talking about the Fathers of Mercy near Kentucky? In Kentucky,
There's a
near
split off of
Lexington?
them that turned traditional Latin Mass. Father Shannon Collins split from them.
Huh.
Yeah. I
I
don't
don't
remember
know.
what they're called. I don't know if they're the missionaries of St. John the Baptist.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
this will
so
require some research.
Missionaries of St. John the Baptist was founded by two former members of the Fathers of Mercy, and they have
Hmm.
Our Lady of Lourdes Parish in Park Hills, Kentucky.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, but Trendy Webb, tell us who these TLM Franciscans are, what the name of that order is.
Okay. So, do you want to move on
Oh,
to?
Marian Friar. Okay, so he says it's Marian
Oh,
Friars
Mary.
Minor. Yeah, I've
There we
not
go.
heard of them. There was another. No, I don't think they're TLM. But anyway, John, then did you want to talk about Father Maximilian and the FFIs?
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to RR. You kind of read our minds here.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk about the Fairfield Carmelites, and so I've posted a few videos recently about their Apostolic Visitation, and LifeSite News recently released an interview with Father Maximilian. Um, he is a former Franciscan Friar of the Immaculate, and he tells his story, his experience in that organization, that group, because he was one of the traditional Franciscans in that group, and what they went through. And this interview was recorded at the end of August or the beginning of September, and so it doesn't actually talk about what happened at the Apostolic Visitation, but it talks about the events leading up to it. And I was, it was a pretty intriguing interview, I have to say. He had a lot of interesting inside information. And Ryan and I were talking about this, and we weren't sure if he was the only priest that was servicing the nuns in terms of saying mass for them. So I don't know how that would play into it. But anyway, the story goes they got the apostolic visitation, was it last week? So like Saturday through like Tuesday, I think. There were some visitors from Rome.
This thing. I have some text message. I'll share you with it. I'll share them with you and the viewers as we get into it. But I was describing to him, this is exactly like these apostolic visitations. Is like the KGB. They knock on a door at 2 a.m. Open up. Who is it? Open the door. This is KGB. We have questions for you. And then they come down and say, this is apostolic visitation. You come with us. We found out. So it's basically a KGB interrogation that happens in these apostolic visitations. And they have a list, and they were like, here's all the proof that you engaged in anti-Vatican II activity. And all you have to do is confess and say, I'm sorry, I engaged in anti-Vatican II activity, and your family will be spared, and your brothers and sisters will be spared. You'll do a light prison sentence, and everything will be okay. But we're looking at this is like the Inquisition here with these or Soviet secret police, KGB, with these apostolic visitations.
Yeah, and I do want to say before I watched the interview with Father Maximilian, I was sort of the opinion like, all right, what, like everyone is reacting very strongly like, oh, this is an inquisition, all this stuff, and I thought, well, what's the deal with that? And then Father Maximilian says, okay, I went through this in what 2013
Yeah.
with the Franciscan Friars of the Immaculate. He's like, I know how this works. I know what happened, what happens, what will happen, and this is what to expect. And he said he doesn't advise them; he just tells them what he went through, and then allows and then they decide how they want to interpret how he what he went through, what plans of action they need to take. This is the Carmelite nuns, and I don't know where you want to go next with the story.
Well, let's talk about that. So I have
Okay.
some information here. So I texted a friend, Father Maximilian in that interview. He mentions that the Mother Angelicas got the merciful visitation and they ended up getting crushed. And
Yes.
I said to him, and now this friend of mine was in the MFVAs. They are the twin order of the Mother Angelicas. So they're the guys that run EWTN. You're talking about Father Joseph Mary and those guys who were on EWTN,
Oh, wow.
right? So he was
Okay.
in that group. And I asked him and I said, did you know that the Mother Angelicas got crushed by the Vatican and there's only a few left? Because Father Maximilian said there's only 9. And some modernist non-inquisitor took over from Rome and drove all the tradies away. And he said, yeah, I watched that interview, and he said he knew about the visitation and that a bunch of sisters left. Even a bunch of final vows left the Mother Angelicas. And it says that it all started even before he left the friary. So, but what he didn't know is that the inquisitorial nun was sending away the nuns that liked the TLM. That was news to me. And he said, as a friar, I was never told of any details about what the division was. He said one new foundation had to come back to help another foundation, and one was shut down by the local bishop. It was all really sad. I think that all happened when Benedict was Pope. Uh, the story that my friend was telling me, and I said, "Yeah, this is like Soviet tactics with these inquisitors."
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to align with the timeline that Father Maximilian was talking about. Benedict was Pope around that time.
Yeah.
Uh,
So then you brought up the question. I don't understand why these women, men, the religious, why don't they just lock the door? If an inquisitor shows up, just say, like, go away, no solicitors. We're not interested in the gospel of Mormonism. Get lost, pal. So lock the door and say, go away, because St. Teresa of Avila did that. And then we had a back and forth, and I mentioned about. Sorry, go ahead.
well, he said that's in the interview. He said that's what they were planning on doing. Now we know that they didn't do that.
They didn't do it.
Yes.
Yeah. So the inside intelligence that I had from before they got the Inquisition was that they had a plan that they were going to lock the door and not let anybody in. That the Mother Superior had a plan and told every nun, if anybody knocks on the door and says we're from Rome, say go away and call the police. That's what I heard. But then you hear they let them in, and so then they go in there and do the Inquisition. I don't understand any of this. Everybody knows the bad guys are coming, and then they let the bad guys in and listen to them. And we're going to talk about this because I'm sick of this stupidity. This is
And
just pure stupidity of these people.
I believe they had shut down masses of the public at that time when he was giving the interview, and he told the story. This actually was very creepy to me because I go to churches and take photos and that kind of stuff. Well, he said there were people doing that. They were taking photos of like the security gate and all of those things. And then he said whenever a caretaker, one of the caretakers of the grounds approached these people, they started to walk towards them and they jumped in the car and drove away. That really creeped me out because I'm like, dude, if I'm at one of these places and someone from that place approaches me, I'm like, oh hey, how are you doing? And like, I'm all about the Latin Mass, and I just want to find out more about these communities, and especially like cloistered communities. I have no idea what's going on, and like this guy would have ideas of like how the monastery is going to be built, and I'd be really interested in having those conversations. These people just jumped away, jumped in the car like they were illegally taking photos, and
Yeah.
it was that actually really creeped me out. They said these interrogations, they isolate each nun and interrogate them for a pretty extended period of time, and they try to back them in a corner to disclose information that would make them look bad. He said that actually his interrogation at the Franciscan Friars of the Immaculate, it was just a questionnaire that was sent out, and it was very pointed questions. And then he said there were five Franciscans out of like 400 that didn't like the Latin Mass.
Mm-hmm.
and then they got the axe. Their superior was replaced, effective immediately. So the new guy walked in. He said, "Hey, I'm your new superior." That's how it went down.
I don't understand why people didn't say, "No, you're not. We didn't elect you. Go away." Grab the guy and thrown him out the door. You know why?
Yeah,
Because they're all sissies. They all were castrated apparently when they accepted sola obedientia, which is the greatest heresy of the 21st century. I'm sick of this stuff. I'm not gonna explode now, but by the end of this, I'm going to explode on all these losers. I'm exploding because they are weak losers, and this is why they lose. I'm gonna be Trump here. All they do is lose. The Catholic Church doesn't win anymore because we have no spine. We're a bunch of losers. I don't want to lose. I want to win. I want Catholics who win and get converts. I want Catholics who don't close the monastery when a Soviet inquisitor comes in. I want Catholics who take that inquisitor and kick him in the butt and throw him out the door, who call the police and say, "You're not welcome here."
yeah. And additional information. What was the additional information he released at the end? I don't know, but I do have an email here. I'll remember it. But I got a few email lights within the past few weeks. I'm on their email list. I don't know if you can sign up on their website or not, but one was about the construction of their monastery, which is pretty interesting. Maybe I'll talk about that in a second. But the one quote that he had was together, or this was written by the Mother Superior of the order. She said, "Together we wish to remain ever faithful to our Carmelite charism, no matter what the cost." So
Mhm.
to me, I feel like that means they're not going to back down to pressure. And here's the thing: is he talked about this priest talked about how he wasn't suicidal, and so if he mysteriously were to die, yeah. And I was like, well, I don't know if that's a huge possibility for this guy because he's servicing the nuns, he's saying mass for them, and we kind of had a little bit of a disagreement. I think what another point I think more significant of a point is that Bishop Ronald Gaynor is the bishop of the Diocese of Harrisburg, where the Fairfield Carmelites are, and he made the point that I've been thinking about for a while. Bishop Gaynor is like 2 years away from mandatory retirement, and he said that they like the Vatican, they're not beyond forcing retirements, whether it's a priest or a bishop.
Gaynor said that?
No, this Father Maximilian said that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He was implying that Bishop Gaynor could be retired. When Bishop Gaynor was Bishop of Lexington, Kentucky, there was a situation. Um, I think he didn't remove priests from active ministry very quickly enough, um, and so that really kind of hurt his reputation. And if you've been a bishop for long enough, there's probably certain stories that Vatican could take a certain way and force anyone into retirement, believably.
Again, how do you let's get into that now. How do you force a bishop into retirement? Because
Just tell them,
retirement is, by its nature, uh, it's not in canon law that you can force a bishop to retire. You can
well,
ask him to retire, but you can't force him to.
well, they did that with the Bishop of Memphis a few years ago. His name was Bishop Talley, I believe. He was in his 60s, and he reassigned like half of it, or over half of his priests to new parishes within his first year, and they all hated him. And so the Vatican, they told him they forced him to retire.
How did they
So
force him? Did they like
I
tie
don't
him
I don't
down and
know.
move his hand to say I resign? Because that's against you could look this up in the Code of Canon Law. A forced retirement is no retirement at all. A retirement done under duress has no legal effect. Remember that. That goes all back to the Benedict conspiracy that Benedict was forced out, so he didn't really resign. A bishop who's forced to resign under duress by the Pope or somebody else who doesn't do it freely does not resign. It's fake. It's a coup. And
Oh,
so that bishop was couped.
so you're saying that like Cardinal Wuerl, he voluntarily resigned, but if he would have stayed there, then they couldn't have pressured him to he could have just stayed in his position as Cardinal of Washington.
Well, who can remove him?
Okay, so that's an interesting point.
No, my question is, how do you get out a bishop from his see?
Well, an American bishop, the Vatican just sends him a letter and says, "Hey, we'd like for you to resign." That's how you. That's how
well,
they get
that's
him out.
great. I'm sure the Vatican could write me a letter and say we'd like for you to resign, and I would laugh. I would post it on this show and burn it on this show. There's a lot of things that they would like, but that doesn't mean I have to do them.
I can't think of any bishop in the United States that would do that, though.
That's because there is a bunch of Nancy girl bishops in the United States of America. They're all wimps.
It's the situation we're dealing with. I mean, and forcibly retiring priests, that's like you're saying, that's bogus. But how many priests, if the Vatican sends them a letter or their bishop says, "Hey, I want you to resign," like how many of them are going to pull a Father Altman?
I don't know, but I can tell you that if they sent out the thing and said worship a Pachamama, probably 90% of them would do it, because it's all for them. There's no foundation in their religion besides obedience. Sola obedientia, obedience alone leads to salvation, and that's the answer. There is no dogma. And now, I've asked enough questions, so let me tell you. The Pope could write a letter to Gaynor and say, like, "Oh, you're really bad. I'm demanding your resignation." And then Gaynor says, "I'm not going to resign." And then the Pope's like, "Damn it, you need to resign. Sign this paper and resign." And Gaynor can say, "No, I'm not resigning. I'm doing a great job. And you don't have any reason to even ask for my resignation." And then the Pope could say, "Well, I'm going to depose you." And Gaynor could say, like, again, there's no charges or whatever, so I'm resisting and I'm appealing, and I'm not even showing up to Rome. I'm staying in Harrisburg. You can excommunicate me. Guess what, buddy? I own every key to every church in the Diocese of Harrisburg, and I have all the money. It's all mine. And if you don't like it, tough. It's mine, okay? And he can do what? We'll go into what Bishop Antonio Castro Meyer did, which is he basically kept the diocese. And when the new mass came out, he says, "I'm not doing this." And Rome tried to make him quit. He never did quit. And they ordained SSPX consecrated a bishop and to take care of him. But Bishop Castro Meyer took he kept the churches for traditional Latin mass, and the diocese, the mainstream Vatican II diocese had to legally try to get churches and rebuild new things. But anyway, so Gaynor has all the deeds. Gaynor can tell the Pope to fly a kite and still stay in Harrisburg until the day he's dead as bishop. It's there. It's in canon law. I mean, he could be removed in an extraordinary act, but he can't be forced unless there's a canonical process that includes something of a crime. And where there's nothing there is no crime.
Well, that's an interesting thought. And if the Vatican does come down hard on the Carmelites and they resist, which it seems like that's the indication, I'm going to be curious how Bishop Gaynor is going to navigate that situation. So
yeah, so let's unwind this. We got kind of wound up here. I stressed the point that Gaynor can resist and stay as bishop if they try to kick him out. Then I'm going to stress the position that the nuns can lock the doors and not let anybody in. And what's going to happen? They're going to knock on the door and say, "You need to let us in." Why? "We have to do the Inquisition." No, you're not doing an Inquisition. We double dog dare you to open this door. No, I'm not opening the door. "We'll excommunicate you. We'll suppress your order." And then you just say, like, "We have the keys. We own this property. Do whatever you want. You're a false sect anyway. We don't acknowledge that you have the authority to come in here and wreck the place. You have the authority that you have is to make sure that religious orders are Catholic and well running. Obviously, you're not interested in that because there's the Jesuits. So you're interested to come in here and wreck the place, which you don't have authority to do. So go away, go pound salt, and if you show up here, we'll have you arrested." So then they'll say to Gaynor, like, "They're suspended. Whatever, you're nuns. You don't have priests there." And then they'll say, "Father Maximilian, you're suspended, and you can't say mass there." And he can say, "You know what? I'm saying mass there." And then he goes and says mass, and nothing changes. See, John, all that this stuff about canonical status, it's just this. It's a piece of paper. It means nothing. Like, this is not the bit about canonical status. I read the Bible a couple times. I don't remember ever hearing about canonical status in the Bible. There wasn't anything there like Christ in the Beatitudes didn't say, "Blessed are those who have a canonical status." It's about keeping the faith. And this heresy of sola obedientia and sola canonical status, again, this shows the decay of the Vatican II sect of Bergoglio, that it's just pure power politics. It's the Sovietization of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, do you have anything else on Father Maximilian?
I don't have anything on him. I do have something about my friend then asked me about FSSP versus SSPX and how they handled the Inquisition. We'll touch on that at some point in time. I don't know a lot about Father Maximilian. I'm glad he's there doing that mass, and it seems like he's battle hardened and he's not going to get tricked a second time by these jokers.
Well, and I want to talk about another email I got from the Carmelites, and it wasn't necessarily about this situation. It was just about the future of their monastery that is currently in progress. Now, they own the property, and so presumably they're going to be there permanently. And this monastery will not have electricity. It's only going to be by candlelight. And I don't know, are there any monasteries in the United States like this? I
mean, maybe Clear Creek and maybe the Carmelites in Wyoming. Maybe they don't have electricity. You froze for a little bit there. Did you hear what I said?
No, I got cut off.
Okay, I said that you asked me, does anybody not have electricity? And I said maybe the Benedictines of Clear Creek and maybe the Carmelites in Wyoming. Those are the only two that are off the top of my head.
Okay, and so I'm curious because it does get cold in the winter. Although Wyoming's cold in the winter.
That's cold, yeah.
I mean, so I'm curious how warm it's actually going to be in there, and I'd be intrigued to actually travel there at some point.
Well, I mean, that would be cool to see. I remember I wrote, I'll tell the viewers, I wrote you and Brett a response to that, and I said this would be an interesting study, is to see what does the physical plant of their Carmel look like compared to the Carmel of Lisieux, the Spanish Carmels, English Carmels, to see how are those Carmels constructed. Because I can tell you the nuns are not going to have in their cell a fireplace to keep warm. And obviously nobody's going to have electricity, so you're going to need windows in your cell, or you'll need to carry around a candle. Now remember, according to these rules, basically when the sun goes down, you're going to be in bed already. So do you really need an electric light? And I don't know how they decide, how they get up. I don't know if Carmelites get up in the middle of the night to do matins like Benedictines do. I'm not sure. But it doesn't matter. You can have mechanical clocks. That's not a problem.
Well,
that could be another cool show, is to learn about water clocks and how the medievals and the ancients made clocks out of water jugs. And when they got to a certain amount of water, and then something would fall down on the floor, make a sound, and it would wake you up. And that's how they had alarm clocks back then, with water clocks and mechanical clocks. But so there's no electricity. So are they going to have a wood stove in the refectory or in the chapel? Maybe. I don't exactly know. And I suspected, as I wrote in my email to you, I said, depending on how much sun this monastery gets in the winter and how much airflow there is, what's the temperature going to be in the cells? I don't know. Is it going to be 40 degrees, 50 degrees? I don't know, but they're going to, if you're in 40 degree or 50 degree house all day long, that's cold. It wears on you. So you're going to have to wear, you're going to be wearing the wool habit and the cloak. Now, of course, you'll be working too inside, cooking meals and sewing and whatever, and grinding things up or whatever. Maybe you'll burn some calories and that'll warm you up. But But yeah, that will be an interesting thing, is to see, what's the physical structure of that monastery like.
Well, and I just thought, I didn't see this in their email, but it's entirely possible they're taking Laudato Si to heart and using only solar power. So you have
See,
electricity, it's just not it's not actually on the power grid.
this is to fend off the Bergoglian inquisitors. They can point at Laudato Si and say, "Look how green we are."
Yes, you have a real opportunity to embrace the environment and Mother Earth. And
Yeah.
oh yeah. Anyway, would you like to get to the comments? Do you have any?
Yeah, let's go through the
anything?
comments, and then I'll make a
All right.
remark about FSSP versus SSPX.
All right. Where do we want to start?
Well, Ad Voluntas 715.
Yeah, and I'm not going to actually read that, but
Yeah, I don't know
you should
that
watch
video.
Father Isaac's latest video.
Who is Father Isaac? I don't know who that is. Oh, is that Father Isaac Relier? Yeah, that's who it is. And by the way, Father Isaac, oh, wait a minute, there's a Franciscan who's traditional. He was in the CFRs, and he turned Latin Mass, and I don't know if he left there or got kicked out or whatever, but that's who he's referring to. Trendy Web 721. Did we already highlight that? No, before that.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is true. Somebody needs to write a book about the Franciscans, like Malachi Martin wrote one about the Jesuits.
I just think there's so many different orders that it would be difficult to. I mean, you could do a pretty extensive research.
It would probably have to be. It couldn't be a complete insider. It would have to be somebody then who had some inside scoop, but then was able to gather other information elsewhere. Next comment from Trendy Web. Yeah, he says he knows Father DePaul said the JP1 wanted to reinstate the TLM. That's very interesting, because I've heard contradictory information on that. I heard that JP1 had forbidden the traditional Latin Mass in Milan when he was Cardinal Archbishop of Milan. So if Father DePaul says that's true, maybe he had other information. Maybe he was going to allow some sort of indult. But that's interesting to hear. Next one by Patty. So he says that one of the Pachamama worshippers in the Vatican Garden that fateful day, which was 2 years ago as of yesterday, seemed to be wearing a Franciscan habit. Not only was wearing a Franciscan habit. He was a Franciscan. Was there ever a name attached to him? I'm not aware of if they found out who that guy was.
No, I'm not aware either.
We should find out who it was, because he's probably excommunicated for worshiping an idol.
Well, yeah, you would think that Taylor Marshall or one of them would have found out. So
maybe it was Father Casey Cole breaking in the habit.
Maybe he was. I think he had black hair, so maybe he was wearing a wig. I don't know.
Yeah, doesn't Father Casey has black hair?
But his hair's short. This guy, I think, had long ponytail or something.
Oh, maybe it was that guy that I mentioned in the that was in New York City that was happy that they had a Buddha, whatever that priest's name was. RR 728.
Private vows.
Yeah, Father Maximilian thinks he'll say private vows to get out of it. Good idea. Just tell Rome you can have your canonical status. We'll have the Catholic faith. We'll see you on Judgment Day. RR 737. What are the major downsides of just saying private vows instead of being official? Okay, so this is what does official status get you? I was about to tell a joke and say tax-exempt status, but you can get that even if you're non-canonical or non-official.
Yeah.
Okay, so a private vow versus a public vow. In order to take the public vow, you have to have approval of the diocesan bishop, because he's the guy that's going to hear the public vow. There's special graces that go with that public vow. John, can you leave that up there, because there's other stuff to that I wanted to talk about. So there's special graces that come from that public vow. It allows you to be on the official list of orders associated with the diocese, which could bring you vocations and money. It gives you the ability to get an assignment of an official above ground canonical chaplain. And those are the main ones there. So it's access to a regular chaplain, and there's like a stamp of approval. Now he says, I don't see why everyone wouldn't just do that in the current environment. It's not like private vows are bad. Yes, precisely. John, you can remove that comment now. Precisely. Like, the vow is the same. It's made to God. I mean, it has a different strength in the sense that a private vow can apparently be dispensed by any priest in confession. But a public vow, depending on what exactly it was, can either be dispensed by the diocesan bishop or it's got to go to the Pope. So the vow is a lot stronger, but really you're living the same life, and it's not the vow that makes you a saint. I mean, it's the living the life. A lot of people lived a great life without ever taking a vow. So everybody gets all hung up on this canonical status and public vow stuff, and just start praying. Like, just start praying and attending mass and doing mental prayer and whatever, and let canonical status and public vows happen later. I mean, there's a lot of people saving their soul and living very holy lives without any vows or canonical status. So that's the advantage. Don't worry about that stuff. Okay, next one, Adrian, and yeah, there it is. Today our pastor announced he was banned from doing the Novus Ordo ad Orientem. So the question is, what's he going to do about it? That's an illegal ban. So again, are you going to have a spine and say, guess what, pal? No. Or are you going to say, oh, but he pays the bills and my precious canonical status. Oh, I worry about it so much. Oh, this is what it is. Are you going to let yourself be a man and take the punishment for standing up for the truth and your rights? Or are you going to take, every time you capitulate to the Bergoglians, you just lose. There's no limit to your losing. You're just going to lose. You'll be drummed out of the church. So fight for something. At least this is something that you can fight for, because it's definitely unquestionably allowed and right. So I hope your pastor fights.
Adrian, would you be interested in sharing which diocese you live in? From what I remember, I think Adrian is from Canada.
Yeah, I believe he's in British Columbia. So
I'm not sure.
Is there a Vancouver diocese in Canada? But he'll tell us.
Yeah. Okay.
Trendy Web 753. Wonder if the German bishops have canonical status and when they're going to get an apostolic. Never. Yes, they have canonical status. They're the ones who make the canonical status because they write the checks. And they'll never get an apostolic visitation because they're doing LMNOP, and that's what matters. And
apostolic visitations. Oh,
yeah.
Can you hear me?
All right. I can hear you. You broke up there for a while.
All right. I think they get apostolic visitations all the time from the Vatican with the over Appletinis, but that's...
Yeah. Next comment by Patty.
Patty. Hey, Patty. Welcome.
Hello, all yuns in Ireland. When they get their visit, their visitors will be welcomed in a grand party. It will be thrown, all cool dudes together. I think that's in reference to the Germans.
There we go. That's their apostolic visitation.
That's the Appletinis.
Patty's able to, use that, I guess, make this statement a lot more effectively than I am. So
yeah,
we'll go with Patty's comment on that.
So the next comment.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, so this is this guy, Trendy Web. Yeah, he refers to the SSPX Benedictine Monastery in Silver City, New Mexico. That's let me tell you, that's the place, the closest thing to a real deal to a traditional Benedictine monastery that you're going to find. Go watch the YouTubes about that place. They're solid. They're out there working in work habits and doing the real divine office, and it's a great place. I'd love to go visit there.
And even though New Mexico is the desert, they still have cold winters.
Oh yeah,
So,
because
I
it's so
mean,
dry there. When the sun goes
yeah,
down, it turns freezing at night.
yeah. No, if you're talking about like Phoenix or certain parts of like central Southern California, now in the winter, it's pretty nice in the winter. But
Yeah, but then
no,
the question is, what do you do in the summer? But the answer to that is, well, go visit
well,
the monastery of Saint Anthony in Egypt, and there's the guys live in caves, and it's hot as can be outside in the
well,
sun.
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, in a cave, it's always like 60 degrees. So you just go into a cave and then you can live in the desert.
Okay, we
Oh,
move into.
Trendy Web at 8 o'clock has more information there. Father DePauw said JP1 invited him to Rome to help him reinstate the TLM. Okay, Trendy Web, tell us about, is that on a YouTube? Please give the citation for that, or if it's on the Catholic Traditionalist Movement website. I would really like to do some research into that. Okay, next comment, Adrian. He
Oh
says,
wow,
oh, he's in Denver, Colorado. So that's Aquila. So you're
yeah,
telling me that Priscilla and Aquila told your pastor that he can't do Novus Ordo ad Orientem?
wow.
This is horrific. Oh, this is big news. Ladies and
I
gentlemen,
know.
John the Son of Thunder live show brings you the breaking news that in Denver,
Uh,
Colorado, Bishop Priscilla and Aquila doesn't allow Novus Ordo ad Orientem, which is schismatical. He's acting schismatic, and we got to stop it. Adrian confirms it. So it's only a matter of time
wow.
before our TLM is banned. Well, my friend, it's time to join the SSPX. Where's my two hearts logo? Flash the bat signal. Let me open it up here. Share screen. Share
Well,
screen.
I've actually this is one of the times on this live show that I'm pretty surprised. Like I'm
There it is, the two hearts of the Vendée. This is the bat. This is the Lefebvre signal, and you throw that up, and an SSPX priest is going to come to your aid.
well, they have Father Dave Nix there, right?
Well, yeah, you're right. He's a hermit who has canonical status, and I think he just said he was out traveling around doing underground masses. So, hopefully, Adrian, you can get on his circuit,
Yeah,
and
find a way to contact him. I don't know how the best way is, but maybe he'd be interested in saying a private mass for you. That might
yeah,
be one option.
hopefully it's on a Sunday.
And by the way, that I mean, what a view from Denver. You know, you got the Rocky Mountains there. Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
hey,
there's a
if I
real there
ever
is well, Adrian's pointing out there is in Denver there's a fraternity parish um that is in Littleton. So um, Littleton, Colorado. I think that's a suburb of Denver. Just give me a second to look that up.
yeah, there's not that many suburbs in Colorado in Denver because it's basically like a city next to a bunch of uninhabited land on
Yeah.
all directions. But
Yeah, okay. So Littleton, Colorado is a suburb of Denver where there's the beautiful Our Lady of Mount Carmel Fraternity Parish. So that's a great place. Oh, I hope Priscilla and Aquila, or as you call him, Archbishop Nancy, I hope he doesn't close down the fraternity. But you're just gonna have to get used to going underground. We're all gonna go underground, and believe me, my lesson I learned about the underground during COVID, and I've had some underground masses after COVID, underground sacraments, baptisms. Okay, let me tell you that the underground church is 10 times better than the above ground. It's so much better there. The people are much more resilient. They're hardcore. Like John and I are your average traditionalists in the underground. On the above ground, like one of my Victor was saying that he has to be careful when he introduces me to new people because he says I'm so radical that I like scare girls and stuff like that. And I said I'm not even radical. I'm sort of like mainstream traditionalist. I'm not even a Sedevacantist, although I'm questioning. I'm not resistance SSPX. I'm
well,
not into the conspiracy theories of Fatima and the stunt double popes and any of
well,
that stuff. Although it's entertaining, but I'm not into that stuff.
to be fair, when you bring new people into the Latin Mass, there is this sentiment of the sola obedientia. You have to gradually break them. You have to gradually kind of like, what did you say? Get that out of their heads, that the sola obedientia, because they're like, oh, it's SSPX. They're not under the Pope. Like, well, yeah. Like, they don't think Pope Francis is. They don't acknowledge Francis. Well, yeah.
Why do you think this is an interesting question? Is this because the JP2 Benedict era that everybody was sola obedientia, sola
Well, I
popa, sola
think
papa?
I think we answered that in our Opus Dei episode. Opus Dei was like the only now, not counting the SSPX. Opus Dei was like the only conservative order for like 30 years.
Yeah.
At least a bit, like the big mainstreams. And so, and their premise is sola obedientia, and under JP2 it really wasn't a big deal. I mean, there were a few instances, like, we've talked about, Taylor Marshall's talked about, certain things, but there wasn't a lot of blatant heresy. And then we get to Pope Francis, and they're like, no, scrambling. But it's still ingrained in everyone's mind. And I think Vatican I had an impact on that as well. And was it Eric Sammons who talked about rethinking the papacy? That was a video that he did.
That's a really great episode. Everybody get in when you get a chance. After you're done watching the Academy Award-winning John the Son of Thunder program, after you're done watching, and all of our back episodes as well, go on and watch that Crisis podcast or Crisis series, whatever it's called on YouTube, Rethinking the Papacy. That's really good, because you've got to get your mind right on the papacy, what it is and what it isn't, and stop thinking that like the totality of Catholicism is doing and thinking what the Pope says. That's so false and disgusting that you have to stop. Otherwise, you just end up with a Pachamama on the altar and you're kissing a Quran. That's where Sola Papa gets you kissing a Quran with a Buddha on the altar and a Pachamama up there.
Okay, do I want to move? Okay. So it says Father Max of the Vatican acted shocked that they recognized other councils besides Vatican II. No, Vatican II wasn't easy. I mean, this is your church history. It starts in 1962?
Yeah, that's all that there is. It's seeing a new church into being.
I mean, if you don't go to Sacred Heart Seminary, that's what the other seminaries are going to teach you, right?
Yeah. Somebody was questioning me about, does SSPX accept Vatican II and all this stuff? And I'm going to ask them, do you accept do you accept the First Council of Nicaea? John, do you accept the First Council of Nicaea?
I mean, yeah, is that where we get our Nicene Creed?
That's where the first part of it comes, but it was actually, there was stuff added to it at First Council of Constantinople. I am going to share you this screen, and I'm going to show you something. You're going to be shocked about this. Now, you said you accept Nicaea. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here, get rid of this dumb ad for seeds. Actually, you might need those seeds when the collapse happens. I want you to read. I'm going to read for you Canon 20 of Nicaea. So this is an ecumenical council that, John, you said you acknowledge Nicaea, don't you?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Don't make me excommunicate you. Canon 20, First Council of Nicaea. For as much as there are certain persons who kneel on the Lord's Day and in the days of Pentecost, therefore, to the intent that all things may be uniformly observed everywhere in every parish, it seems good to the Holy Synod that prayer be made to God standing. So, if you believe in Nicaea, I do not want you kneeling on Sunday and the Easter season. And if you do, I'm going to beat you, excommunicate you, and accuse you of denying First Nicaea. What do you have to say for yourself? You do believe and accept First Nicaea, don't you?
Yes. Well, I mean,
there's no well. You say yes, sir. And when I say how much Nicaea, you say how high.
Well, that actually explains a lot about the Byzantines, but
Yeah, it does.
because their liturgical posture is standing, and that's where they get it from. I guess. Well, I identify as biritual.
So
So,
okay,
I mean,
well, why didn't you need to be standing on Sunday and in the Easter season? I don't want to see you kneeling. But
yeah,
John,
well,
you just said you accept Nicaea. Are you saying you reject Nicaea? I'm confused.
I don't know.
See, you
Yeah,
don't know. You're all tied up. I'm gonna have to replace you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna
you
have
have
to.
to.
I'm the Apostolic Visitator. I'm taking over this show. You're deposed as superior of the John the Son of Thunder program. It's now.
I've been
I've
kicked off.
replaced you. Now you have to be sola obedientia and say, "Oh yes, I accept. I'll do whatever you say, new superior," and roll around on the floor in dirt. Now I'm gonna take and clean out the refrigerator and eat all the steaks. I know you were saving this stuff for Easter and Christmas, all the great food that was in the refrigerator, but I'm eating it all. And you're gonna eat the skins of sweet potatoes, okay, and those crispy things at the end of French fries, and you can like lick the potato chip bag. That's all you're getting because I'm in charge now. You know, in that movie where Tom Hanks gets the pirates take over, and the guy goes, "Look at me, I am the captain. Look at me, I am the superior here." Okay, that's what they're saying in these religious orders. Anyway, why did I go into this? Because you're not accepting Nicaea 1. Come on, man. So anyway, I've gone on enough about this. You see, you can see what's going on here. If anybody says that you need to accept Vatican II, you need to point this and say, well, you need to accept Nicaea 1. What are they going to answer? I have some answers for that, but I'd like to hear what they have to say. All right,
Yeah,
you can move on to the next one. Adrian at 810.
this is PX in Fort Collins.
5 miles away, dude. Switch there. Forget the nervous disorder. Maybe
Yeah,
you have a good priest. Try to support him or whatever, but you might have to switch there. Joe
yeah, he
Morales,
might have to switch.
810. Yeah, 810. Is Father Carl Pulvermacher related to the late Pope Pius XIII? Yes, he is. That's what I said. I could do a whole show. Father Lucian Pulvermacher is the purported Pope Pius XIII. We all know that the real Pope Pius XIII is in that show, Young Pope. And but anyway, yeah, Joe, good catch. I mean, that could be another show there when we start talking about crazy stuff and traditionalism. Adrian 810.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
Father
Father
Nix
Nix
used
used
to
to
be
be
my
my
confessor.
confessor. Call
Wow.
him, dude. You know,
Yeah,
actually, Adrian, maybe we need to get in contact with Father Nix. John, we could have him on our show. I said, or at least we can write him questions via email and get him to answer them.
yeah.
Because
If
I
we can
know
get
you've
in
already
contact with
emailed.
him.
Yeah, let's get his contact info or whatever. Because we already talked to Bishop Gracita. We talked to Bishop Gullickson. We're going to do a show with
Well,
Catholic Northmen. We're
Bishop
going to do a
Gracita
show
hasn't
with Hope.
responded.
Well, he will. He's busy.
Hopefully,
I want to
yeah.
talk to Bishop Williamson and maybe ask some questions to him because I know a guy that's friends with. I know a guy that knows a guy that's friends with Bishop Williamson.
Wow.
By the way, you don't know this, and people don't know. Did you know that Bishop Williamson's great grandfather lived in Pennsylvania and died and was buried here? And he fought in the rebellion against the British, the so-called
Wow.
Revolutionary War. I found that out in the Williamson biography. So, and
Wow.
Williamson's been to Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, I never got a chance to meet him. But that being said,
Yeah.
well, yeah, let's try to talk to Father Nix and get some info from him. So
Yeah.
Adrian, next one says he's in Fort Collins. There is an SSPX
Yeah.
in Fort Collins. John Charnomsky, Our Lady of Guadalupe in Silver City, New Mexico. Great coffee. I'll have to try that.
Well,
You know who has really good coffee? There is an Eastern Orthodox monastery, and I'm going to try to get the name of it here. I know Abbott's Choice. And it's the Vashon Island Merciful Savior Monastery, Vashon Island, Washington. I really recommend their Abbott's Choice coffee. I'm looking, it's $10 a bag. Really good stuff. So I've had Mystic Monk of the Carmelites in Wyoming. I thought that was pretty good, but I think the Eastern Orthodox of Ashan Island coffee's better. I have not tried the Our Lady Guadalupe. I would like to try it. Heather 813.
Welcome, Heather.
Welcome, Heather. These visits from Rome reminded of Candy Graham knocked by the shark. Oh, old Saturday Night Live. I don't remember that skit, so I'm going to have to look that one up. I know a lot of Saturday Night Lives. John, were you around when the original Aaron and I were talking about Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer at breakfast or dinner?
No.
And I think it was, the joke was that he was unfrozen Tridentine priest. And he was frozen, in like some ice block or whatever, and they woke him up, and he would go around and say, "What do I know about the Novus Ordo? I'm just an unfrozen Tridentine priest," and that was his gimmick. Adrian, this next comment by Adrian: Benedictine College in Atchison started an 8 a.m. Sunday TLM on campus 3 weeks ago. Boom, cha-ching! Excellent news. That is great news. Let's put that on a bumper sticker and make sure people know about that. I heard Benedictines getting more and more based. They're on the Cardinal Newman Society list. Ooh. I had a friend, she was looking at going there. There's a family that was thinking about, the father was considering a job there, so I heard good things about Benedictine. Oh, and I know you never met John the Baptist and his wife, but they did their underground. I'm thinking about the underground. They did their undergrads at Benedictine in Atchison, and they said it was a great place.
Yeah. Now this is Kansas, right?
Yeah, Atchison, Kansas. Yeah.
I believe it's two hours south of Omaha, from what I understand. So that type of region, like basically central United States, but yeah. Kansas.
Omaha's that's a really Catholic area. I mean, there's St. Mary's in Kansas. There's Benedictine College in Atchison. Up in Omaha is like the world headquarters of the CMRIs, and then there's Bishop. Who's that trad bishop who's there in Omaha, or was there in Omaha before? Do you remember his name? No. He's a guy that he did that Latin Mass at the shrine, and I'll look that up. You can get the next.
And actually, half an hour away from Omaha is Lincoln, which is the FSSP Seminary. So
yeah.
If only Siri had become Pope. I don't know.
Yeah, there's the Siri thesis that Siri was Pope. Siri was the conservative candidate, and I think the election of 65 and 78, and there's a fellow that comes to our Latin Mass that he believes in the Siri thesis, that Siri actually was elected and was forced to resign, which was invalid, and so therefore Siri was actually Pope until he died in, I think, 1989. Then there was a sedevacante period, and then Benedict was a true Pope, and I think he thinks Benedict is still the true Pope. I think they said Siri was Gregory the 17th. So anyway, that's that. I don't know who this guy was thinking of who was their Bishop of Omaha. Curtis retired in 2009, but that's not who I was thinking about. It was a fellow that celebrated that Mass at the shrine a couple of years ago, an archbishop. Anyway, next one by Ad Voluntas. Interview Francis of the Pachamamas. Accept no imitation priests. You can just keep going through there.
Yeah.
We'll get them all here.
We're going to cut off comments here pretty soon.
Yeah, Joe Morales.
We'll cut it off at 8:25. No more comments.
Yeah.
All right. Mystic Monk in Wyoming, also great coffee. These are great monasteries. I'll have to visit them sometime. And with your generous contributions to this channel.
We haven't had a super chat in so long. How can John hasn't gone anywhere? He can't afford to travel.
I discourage super chats.
I encourage super chats. Remember, and you were deposed. I'm the apostolic administrator of this place, right. So I ordered everybody under holy obedience to send some super chats so that I can demand John and holy obedience go travel to monasteries.
The thing with super chats is 30% of it goes to support YouTube's initiatives of BLM and LMNOP and all that nonsense. So that's why John, I kind of discourage it.
John,
What were you saying?
Well, how much of your daily, you go to a job, and how much is taken out from taxes that go to Sleepy Joe, and how much of that goes to LMNOP and BLM and
I know. Yeah.
CRT? They're taking 30%. So, whatever.
Well,
Somebody's going
not
to take
quite.
your money.
I don't make enough to pay 30%. Sorry, I mean that's just the reality.
Plus, I get all the money anyway because I'm the apostolic administrator. Next
Yeah.
one, Joe Morale. This is better than Opus Dei because I'm not even pretending to be religious or holy. I just take all your money and have you scrub the bathrooms with a toothbrush.
Yeah, if you don't, and if you're not, if you don't understand what we're talking about, watch our Opus Dei video. I actually thought it was a pretty cool one.
Well, nobody takes on Opus Dei besides the JSOT show.
I guess.
Yeah.
And Randy Engel, she's pretty good.
Yeah.
Those who demand such things have been demanding we stand for decades.
Based on Nicaea Canon 20. Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's the only thing in tradition that the liberals like is the standing canon. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Huh.
Boris had some seminarian panel, and one of them went to the mystic monks and spoke against them, alleging misconduct and saying they were all rich and not a great organization.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
What are
our reports, huh?
What are
Who
the
are
mystic
the Mystic monks? Those are the Carmelites in like Cody, Wyoming. They're the ones that make the Mystic Monk coffee.
Oh, okay.
So I can't, as I said, our reports you decide, or in this case, Voris, so investigate that. I don't know. Trendy Web.
Yeah. What is the most trad
which is the most trad monastery in USA? Well, I have to say Silver City. Because number one, they're Benedictines and they're the most traditionalist. They're the most based and real trads. And I think they're the most base out of all trads. Now, I don't know exactly what liturgy they do there, if it's the 62, but somebody should find themselves a pre-55 Benedictine monastery that, says the unchanged office and sings everything.
Oh, Adrian, there you go.
Adrian, your son attends Benedictine. That's great. Really good news.
Well, and here's the thing. I have, we have some sources at some Catholic universities, but if there is ever any. Well,
repeat that, John. You cut out. You said that we had sources of other schools.
We have sources in certain certain universities, but we're always happy to have sources in a lot of universities. So if you have any information that you ever like to share with us, please let us know, and I'd be happy to share that. That's how these sources get shared. So.
And I have some breaking news for you, John, based on a source who's been on this show, who attends Franciscan University of Steubenville, and that is the great Bishop Schneider is in Steubenville tonight. He's doing a mass at St. Peter's in Steubenville, and so our source is there. And I told our source to gather intelligence and take photographs and update me after the mass is over. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you turn into the John the Son of Thunder program. You get all this inside information. We're talking to priests, who know secret information. We've got sources going to masses, so it's great.
Okay, so Benedictine College is right up the river from Kansas City.
Kansas City. Okay, go to this next one.
City, pretty close.
John Charnomsky. I have not heard that Fraternity in Harrisburg is becoming a quasi-parish. What does that mean? Because wasn't it a parish already? The Mater Dei.
Yeah, St. Lawrence Chapel.
Yeah,
I thought it was given to the FSSP.
I thought so too. Mater Dei Harrisburg. I'm going to look this up. Mater Dei FSSP Latin Mass Community. And it's been a while since I've been there.
Yeah, it's a very nice chapel. It's small though.
It's small, but it's nice. I don't see anything on the front page about them Are you saying they're getting turned into a? So is a quasi parish the same thing as a parish? Is this so that nobody can crush them later on? I'm looking at the bulletin right here. Propers in the Mass. Oh, they're doing a spiritual bouquet for Bishop Gaynor. Parking. No, I don't see anything in the latest bulletin about it. Hey, Adrian's checking out. Thanks, Adrian. We
Yeah,
appreciate it. God bless.
It's time that we start
John, if
wrapping up.
we have about 5 more minutes, let me just go over an exchange that I had. Okay, so John says it was a modern day LM community, not a parish. Yes, so it's going to turn into a parish. So that's really good news. That way they don't get smashed by a modernist.
Well, thanks for that information.
Yeah, thanks for that. So again, I was talking to this is a text message exchange with my friend who was the one who was in the MFVAs. And he says, it's so weird that bishops are being, mean with trads. He says, don't they got to know that they're going to drive people to the SSPX unnecessarily. He says, I don't understand why they seem relatively accommodating to SSPX, but are coming down hard on other TLM communities. And I said, well, there's a conspiracy theory, basically Taylor Marshall's, that Bergoglio wants all trads to go to SSPX. But then I pointed out to him, I said, there's a big problem with the FSSP in these indult communities. And that's that they say on paper, they have to say on paper that the Novus Ordo is okay and fine. Novus Ordo is fine. But that means that Rome can come right back to him and say, like, oh, well, you say the Novus Ordo is fine. So now I want you to start saying the Novus Ordo. You have a mass scheduled, every Sunday you got to do a Novus Ordo because there's only one Roman rite, and it's the Novus Ordo. It's like the Shahada. There is one Roman rite, and it is the Mass of St. Paul VI. Now, you've accepted Vatican II, and now you can serve in the military and whatever else. But the SSPX on paper and pretty much all trads that I know say that the Novus Ordo is hot garbage, and they don't want anything to do with it. So at least me and you are consistent, unlike Fraternity of St. Peter in the indult communities. So it seems to me that Fraternity of St. Peter and the indult communities are two-faced. They've got two faces. Now Rome says to them, FSSP, quote, you acknowledge that we have the authority to smash your face. So come here and under obedience, stand there and we're going to smash your face. Now, SSPX says to them, Rome, you don't have the authority to smash our face, and we won't let you smash our face. So I think that Rome actually respects SSPX because they have principles. SSPX actually stood up to the bully, which is modernist Rome, and they fought back and they earned the respect of the bully. But the Fraternity of St. Peter lets the bully take his lunch money and give him a wedgie. And so the bully has no respect for Fraternity of St. Peter. So that's what I have to say about that. Somebody should make that a meme of like SSPX punching the bully and he's got a black eye, and Fraternity of St. Peter cowering and getting an atomic wedgie from the bully. That's a perfect comparison of that. And John, you can take this and turn this into a highlight video. This is SSPX versus Fraternity of St. Peter.
Well, yeah, we'll see. And I'm still, we'll see what the FSSP does, because I think there's still opportunities for them to, take a stand for their values.
My prediction is that half of those guys are going to fold up like a cheap tent, and the other half will actually fight. But
well, it should be. I mean, that shouldn't be too long until we find out what exactly they do.
Yeah, because they'll be getting the Holy Inquisition soon.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So John just this is the last thing we're going to talk about. Bishop Schneider is going to be in Lancaster this Sunday at St. Joseph. So yeah, if you're, again, everything big and important happens in Pennsylvania, and Bishop Schneider is going to be in Lancaster this Sunday at St. Joseph. So go there if you can. He was at the Catholic Identity Conference this past week. Apparently, I didn't email him, but some friends, the Penn Staters emailed Schneider and they said, hey, since you're going to be in Pennsylvania, why don't you meet with us between Catholic Identity and the Lancaster Mass? And Schneider said, I can't. He apparently had to fly to Boston. Now, I don't know what he did up there in Boston, which would have been like Monday, Tuesday. I don't know, but he was up there. So he did something in Boston. We need to find out what that was. Anyway, he's back at Steubenville, and then he'll be at St. Joseph's this Sunday. So go to that if you can. It's a really beautiful parish. I've never been there. I've told some people under holy obedience, since I'm the apostolic administrator, I said, I order you to go to St. Joseph's this Sunday. and I think they are going to go. So we'll hopefully we'll have inside sources again, ladies and gentlemen, on this program about the Bishop Schneider Mass.
All right. Well, that's the show. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. This is very interesting. And stay tuned for the next show where we talk about more traditional Catholic history. And thank you, Ryan, for joining us. And everyone, have a great day. We are the laity.
And we will not be silent.